the goal for the montage is, I told you to go out and film 24 shots, and now with your discerning eye, you're going to pick 12 or more, but I wanted to give you that leeway of, oh, so-and-so didn't really film so well, or that shot we really messed up on, or whatever. So I want to give you some discernment and pick your 12 best shots, right? Hopefully a variety, so you get a close-up and all that stuff, but you're going to highlight your 12 best shots from the 24 or more that you filmed, and you're going to make that into a montage. It's going to be about 45 to 90 seconds long. You're not going to use the entire length of the shot. I'm going to teach you how to trim shots, and we're going to learn how to time. Here's the fun part. Everyone listening? This is the other half. Half of your grade is the quality of the films, or the quality of the shots. So it's already been done. The other main part of the grade is going to be timing. Can you time a cut to music? Can you time action to music? And so I'm going to show you how to do that today. So to kind of review everything, I'm going to go really fast. We covered it yesterday, but I'm going to go really fast on the setup just because I'm recording for everyone. So I'm going to make a new project. You probably already have your old project. You already named it MA Montage. You can just click on that. If you didn't upload, so I'm going to call it MA Montage. And I'm going to replace it. Sure. Replace it. All right. So I'm just kind of reviewing the basics real quick. So here's our new scene, our new project, I should say. And I'm going to find my footage and my song. Oops, excuse me. I'm going to find my footage, not Spotify. My footage is right there. I'm going to open it on up. And then I was trying to show you the trick of if you go to list view, that's this right here. I find that piece of footage, scroll down, hold the shift key, it selects everything. Or I can drag a box like that and get everything I want there. I can also hold the command key, and that gets me those two. So one more, get them all. So I'm going to upload my song. I'm grabbing my song at the same time. My song and my footage, and you drag and drop them into this lower left-hand window called the media browser. Now, if you couldn't find a song, I put both of mine up there for you to use. Maybe you can try and find some after my demo if you're really trying to find that perfect song. It takes a little while because it's generating thumbnails and it's doing a few other things, analyzing the audio waveforms, all these other things. And just to my window is much smaller than your window, so you guys can see a lot more of your footage down here, whereas I'm very cramped, so I'm going to go to list view. Okay, now, next thing. Sequence. Oops, we need to make a new sequence. You can do this several different ways. You can go to File, New Sequence, or you can drag media down there and it'll build a sequence for you. But I'm going to do it this way. File, New Sequence. I'm going to call it, Montage Rough Cut. Okay. And then the reason why I'm doing it is because I wanted to demonstrate this. It gives me a standard definition window. And I could have changed that in the sequence settings, but every camera is going to be a little bit different. Every camera is going to have a different situation. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to take the footage from my camera, not pick out any little piece, and drag it into my timeline. When I do that, it gives me this message. Hey, the settings from your footage doesn't match up with the settings from your window. So do you want to change it? And I say yes. The problem is the default, the hit enter and ignore it, is keep the existing settings. But we do want to change the settings. And we notice it becomes HD. And then once it's changed, I can delete this. I'm going to delete it, and that way I've already changed the settings. Okay? And that's where we left off, yeah? Yes? Yeah. All right. So that was our review. Just to make it. So you know you did it right. You know you did it right if you have a rectangle here instead of a square. And you have a 16:9 aspect ratio instead of a 4:3 aspect ratio. Can you change this in settings? Yes, but I didn't want to bog you down on our first lettings on getting into like nitty-gritty of codecs and HD stuff. We do that in January when you really get into the thick of it. Maybe November. Okay. Now let's get to the fun part. Well, I got to plug in my speakers. woofers and your tweeters. You guys too young for that song? Zach, you know that song. Turn up your speakers, your woofers, and your tweeters. No? Jeez. Pretty sure it's Wu-Tang. All right. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a song. You could drag the entire song into your timeline like so. Bam. You could do that. Right? And my whole song's there. However, I could also double click it and I get my entire song here and I can start to edit it if I wanted to. But I'm going to do that in a second. I'm going to pull the whole song in my timeline and I'm just going to drop it on in like so. If it's an audio only clip, it becomes green. They like to color code things. And if I hit play or the space bar, it'll start playing here on my scrubber. Bam! All right, so couple of things before you get going on the song. Here's what you'd like to do. If you want to zoom in and see the waveforms, zooming in is going to be with this little edge of my slider. You guys see where I'm grabbing? You guys see right here? If I want to zoom in here, I can make this cover more or less ground. Everyone look at your keyboard. I'm going to start introducing you to hotkeys. This is a good hotkey to know. Find the enter button or the return button. Return or enter. Do you guys see that on the right-hand side? Right above it, there is a inverse slash. You see that inverse slash right above the return key? If I hit that, it resizes my timeline. It resizes my timeline to the entire clip here. To whatever it fills my entire timeline with whatever there. Okay? But I'm going to zoom in. Class, what's the maximum length of our sequence, of our montage? 90 seconds. So what you could also do is you can go up here and look at your scrubber and you can find 1 minute 30 seconds. And that's going to be right about there. Right? So I could zoom it in and zoom it out to get to where I want it to be. Oops, zoom it out. So I know. Now, can I cut it? Yes. If you wanted to cut a song, you can do it a couple ways. One, you can go to this razor tool, or you can press C for cut. Not Command C, like copying and pasting, but just plain old C, or you can go to this razor blade right here, and you can just chop at around 90 seconds. And if I click here, now some of you are like, well, it didn't do anything. It made a line on it, and now I have to go back to my arrow or my selection tool. It's no longer an arrow. Your mouse is no longer an arrow. Your mouse is a selection tool, and you're going to press V. The reason why I'm telling you V is because sometimes you get lost. We're going to be playing with a lot of tools. V always takes you back to the basics. And it's really tricky because if you're on iMovie or if you're on Final Cut, A is for arrow, right? And it's really tricky for me because in Maya, the animation software, Q is for arrow. So I have all these different hotkeys in my head bumbling around. So I'm just going to, with my V, or my selection tool, I select the footage to the right, and I hit delete. Now I could have also just done this. I could have also taken my song, / and then I could have also just grabbed the edge. You see on my selection tool, if I get it near the edge of my clip, I can pull it in, or I can pull it out, right? So I can also just grab an edge of something and pull it in or pull it out. It doesn't have to be exactly 90. We can mess with it in a little bit. Now, some of you might also be saying, Mr. G, this is really, really teeny tiny. That's really skinny. So if you wanted to make this fatter so you can see the waveforms a little bit better, you can click on this. It's really hard to see. These little skinny little lines right here, and I can widen my track. By the way, these are called tracks, right? So right now I'm on track A1, audio 1 track. Right above it is V1, the video 1 track. We'll talk more about that later. So now I can kind of see these bumps and everything. So before we get going on putting video to this song, I want to talk to you about being aware of the song's rhythms and beats and changes. And what you want to do is you want to prepare yourself to edit with timing to the music. So we're going to learn another hotkey. We've learned C. C does what? Cut shit. Stuff. This is going on the internet. I can't say shit. What is my selection tool? V, right? V is for very much please select that thing, right? And then the next one is we're going to mark up the song. So what do you think the hotkey is going to be? M. So please make sure the song is selected. So if it's not selected, it's a green waveform. If it is selected, it's a white waveform. And if you're not a Rush fan, I'm sorry. We're just going to groove out for a little bit here. So I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to listen to the beats. You know, most rock and roll and hip hop is every fourth beat, so I can kind of count to the beats. You don't have to mark it every fourth beat. I want to mark it where there's changes and where there's big sounds or it's the end of a lyric or a certain word. So I'm going to go. So I'm going to listen to it and mark a few things. I'm just going to feel it out. You guys will play Guitar Hero, right? Check it out. Here I am. I'm just going to play this. Everyone look at me, right? Hit space, yeah. Hit space for play. M. M. Bam. M. I'm gonna wait now. I don't need to do that many. Guitar Hero with one button. It's the easiest game ever. M. There's one more when the song changes. Okay, there you go. You get the feel for it. So, all that's doing is it's marking up the song. So that's the first thing you want to do. I know some of you already have footage in it. Try to ignore it. Get a feel for that 90 seconds of song you're going to use. Mr. G, do I have to use the first 90 seconds of the song? No. If you wanted to use the last 90 seconds of a song, you can cut the end of the song and slide it forward, or you can just trim the front of the song out by pulling this. But make sure your music here, the song track is white. If I don't have the song track that's white, when I hit M, it's going to put a mark up here. Now, these little marks that we're making are going to become edit points or edit reference points. So if you mess up or if you have like a bunch of them right here and that's like too hard to understand, you can delete them by right-clicking on them and choosing delete, right? Or you just leave them there. They're a reference. They're not going to really mess up anything. They're just like a reference point. So what I want you to do is take a few moments right now and press M for your song. Show me that you know how to mark your song so you have some guidance before you start actually putting in video. Does everyone make sense? So get a portion of your song, and you're going to press M and just kind of mark it up a little bit. You gotta maybe have to zoom in on them a little bit. And then you're going to put your scrubber over it. Go back to V. And you should be able to just hit delete. Or if you can't hit delete, up here, can I hit delete? You could Command Z, the one you just did. Add marker, go to marker. You got to be like right on it with your scrubber. It's a little tricky. Yeah. How do you move your scrubber without like actually? So good. You can click here, or you can just click. Good question. If you just click on the top part, right? If I just click around here, it'll jump to wherever I click. Good question. Yeah. Oh. Yes. Yeah, take it out. Can I pause my recording? All right. So, back at it. So we have our clips here, and we want our song to come in here. And like Neo's favorite burger joint, In and Out, we have I and we have O, and they're right next to each other. So on my timeline here, I'm going to press right where the music starts, right? And if I use the left and the right arrow, I can move frame by frame to get right where that beat kicks in, right? So right there. You can hear it, right? I'm going to press I. When I press I, a little mark shows up, and then the rest of the line becomes gray. You'll see why in a second. So now I'm going to, again, play it out to that 8 beats, sorry. Right there. Because the next measure is going to start right after that beat. So that's my in point. I press I. So what I'm going to press for my out point? O. So find a 2 to 8 second portion of the song. Measure it out with that beat, or measure it out with the rhythm, or not necessarily the rhythm. It could be like a lyric. It could be a song change. And have an I point, an in point, and have an out point. I, O. Save this nice little portion of your timeline selected. Real quick. All right. Does everyone have an eye? Omar, you're opening a lot of doors in this footage. I know. I'm trying to find. All right. We'll go back to Omar opening doors. It's okay. It's out of focus. I'll do this. That's not exciting. There we go. We'll do that. All right. Okay. Does everyone have an I and an O on your timeline? If it's not perfectly measured to the beat, that's okay. Just have an I and an O on the timeline. An in point, boop, boop, and an out point, boop, boop. Okay? Now, fun part begins. Find your first shot that you want to use for this in and out point. In and out. Okay? So find a piece of footage. So I'm going to use this one. Just pick one that's interesting. And so they're off camera. They did what I asked them. They hit record, and then they said action. So I definitely don't need these first couple of seconds. Okay? And they're kind of just standing here for a while, and then there's some nice action right here where they kind of cross. It's a nice symmetrical shot. So I want to kind of get it so the action, the clip comes in right about here. I don't even want them standing. I want them already walking when it cuts to that clip. So I'm going to go right here around the middle. So with your footage, find a clip and find the place where you want it to begin. And guess what you're going to press? I. Now you don't need to put an out point. Can anyone guess why? Because there's already an out point in my sequence. So I've made an in point here, I. I've made an in and an out point here. So Premiere is going to go like, oh, I feel you, Mr. G. I'm just going to cut it off wherever that out point, wherever that time runs out on that out point. Right? And this is what we call a 3-point editing system. Turn to your neighbor and say 3-point editing system. Good job. Right? 1 point, 1 in point, 1 out point, 1 in point. Could I make it an out point? I could. Like I can remove my out point and have an in point. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I can do several different things. I could press period, and period would dump it in there. Or, if a lot of you guys don't like the hotkeys, you could also drag it to the right window, and notice I get a lot of options on this right window. The option I want is overwrite. So I could drag it over to this window and choose overwrite. I could also choose insert. Insert does something a little different. But you want to override it. If I drag it in here, notice it does not respect the out point. I could drag it manually in your sequence, which I saw a lot of you doing before we got started. But notice it doesn't respect the out point that way. I'm going to show you a different way to add footage in a second, right? So here's my shot. I'm going to either drag it to where it says overwrite, or I'm going to hit period. And I'm messing up on purpose. So I hit period here. Okay? I like period. I like hotkeys. Right? I like them so much, right? So you got I and O, and then you got period. Let's check out this one more thing before I show you my let's look at my mistake first. All right. What did I do wrong? So look what happens now. It clipped my footage, but what happened? The audio just wiped out the song. That's not what I want, right? So here's how you make it so you don't even have to deal with the audio. And we don't really, unless you have a very specific reason for having audio, you can have the whole montage without any audio. Right here. So this one tells, the one on the right, the A1 that's blue on the right, tells Premiere, this is where I want to copy and paste to. This is an active track. The one on the left is what they call a source patch. And a patch, or a patch board, right, is where you used to kind of have plugs in. So basically this is a plug. So if I unplug A1 but leave V1 plugged in, now my video is going to come in and no audio. So you want to make it so that A1 on the left hand side of this lock here is black. And now when I do overwrite, when I press period, boop, the footage shows up and the audio doesn't. So now, ooh, there you go, right? So that's one way to do it. Let me show you one more. Once I've unplugged the audio, I don't have to plug it back in, right? So the audio is unplugged. I don't have to do that for every shot. I could also make in and out points up here and drag them in. So let's say I don't want to time something to the music for the next shot because I really like this shot. I want to include this shot, and I kind of want Omar to open up the door. Oops, right? I want the door to open right when there's another one of those like, right? So I could also just do an in, I, out, and I'm going to get it to right about, like he pans with him, that's cool, right about there. Out, okay? And I could just drag this into a spot. And notice there's no audio with it, and I can place this wherever I want. So I can do something like that too. Okay? All right, so let's see. I want right around there, because I'm going to try to time later. I'm going to try the door opening to that. I'm going to part of the guitar. Now, Mr. G, I already have footage with audio. Do I have to like scrap it? No, random student. To scrap your audio for footage you already have in, click on that footage, right click, find the words unlink. They're now disconnected. Select the audio, hit delete. And now you have your footage without any audio. So once again, right click, unlink. So I know I showed you a lot. That's all I'm going to show you today. You're going to have a good 20 minutes right now to work. So remember a couple things. I, O, the start point, the end point, right? Period will shove whatever is in here into the timeline. It's going to, if you have an endpoint, it's going to shove it at the endpoint. If you don't have an endpoint, it's going to put it wherever the scrubber is. So if I hit period here, it puts it wherever the scrubber is, right? What's the scrubber? This is the scrubber. Let me show you one last thing. Everyone, raise your left hand. Do it. Do it. You're gonna love it. Do it. Do it. Yeah, Bailey, do it. Then raise your middle finger. Yeah, I'm gonna meet your parents Thursday, by the way, right? Put your middle finger on K. Left middle finger, put it on K. Okay? Now check this out. I and O is right above, right? This is like your little Premiere gaming control system. If I press J, J goes backwards, L goes forward, and K pauses. And then period is right below. So if you hover your hand over the JKL, you have all the controls you need. And that's kind of called like the ready position, right? When you're editing, when I'm editing, my hand is hovering over there. Also space play pauses if you haven't figured that one out too, right? So I have J, backwards, K, pauses, L goes forward, period. Yeah, if you press it multiple times, it'll fast forward. So if I press L several times, it goes really fast. J backwards several times, goes backwards really fast, right? Period throws it in. And then someone was asking about frames. If you wanted to move frame by frame, use your left and your right arrow. If you want to be like super precise. All right, so your goal, get 12 shots in there, reasonably time to music. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you how to time an action to music. Right now, I'm showing you how to time a cut to music. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you how to time an action to music. Questions? You want to come look? Okay. Any general questions? The buttons you need are I and O. And unplugging your audio designators. This guy right here. That's the important thing. Okay, good luck.